Right. But yeah, Ridley Scott has made so many different like types of films. I mean, like you have like Thelma and Louise, which is kind of like more off the cuff from like other stuff he's done. I feel like he's mainly known for doing a lot of like historic drama films. I mean, like you have Gladiator, you have 1492, Paradise of Conquest, which I feel is more underrated in his like realm of films. He's most well known for, I would say, like, you know, Alien, and then Blade Runner, which is amazing. And then, gosh, Prometheus, I feel like that one was pretty underrated.
Oh, the last one I saw of his.
But I don't know, in terms of like Ridley Scott as a filmmaker and just his films in general, like where do you stand? Like, I don't know, would you say you're a fan of his films?
I think his name carries well through it. So I'm like, oh, Ridley Scott. And then I start looking at his filmography. I'm like, maybe I haven't seen as much of like many movies as I thought.
Right.
But because I associate it with Alien, but Steve's like, no, it's not Aliens. It's just the Alien movie and the Prometheus. But I've only seen a few of his. Like I've never seen Blade Runner. I saw parts of Gladiator, but a lot of them, like I said, I think his name, like, Ridley Scott is like, oh, he's a good director. But I don't know a lot of his movies personally, to be honest.
Yeah, that's the thing. I've noticed with most of his movies, they're very, like, in terms of, like, cinematography, it's always extremely epic and, like, just incredible. But, like, I feel like a lot of his films are very, like, more dialogue-based. Like, to me, his films always seem to be more almost kind of like you're watching a novel in a way with the way the, like, dialogue is. Like, how it's very, like, intricate, and like you kind of have to like really pay attention, like sometimes even turn the captions on because it's like in a weird tone, which is good, you know. They're using like the like realistic like dialect of the times, like Gladiator, for example.
Right.
But and like even with, you know, Legend, the way they speak is a little bit strange too, because it's a lot of, you know, like fantasy characters. But so when it comes to Legend, was this like a rewatch, or was it the first time?
Yeah, so I literally just watched it a couple years ago for the first time. I didn't grow up with this, which is really weird because it fits into that whole like princess
nostalgia,
labyrinth type, never-ending story vibe, and I'm shocked that I never really saw it. Which is weird. It would have been the perfect time period. But yeah, I just watched it for the first time a couple years ago, and I watched it again last week, and I'm like, how did I miss out on this? Because this is so my type of movie.
Well, it's funny too that you mentioned Neverending Story, because like watching it, it kind of reminded me of a little bit of like a mix of Dark Crystal.
Yes, I could see that.
And then also, Neverending Story. And yeah, it's one of those movies where it's like I knew about it growing up a little bit, or like I knew about it once I was like maybe like in my early teen years, like 13, 14. And it's funny because I first like found out about it from watching the movie Mallrats, because in the movie Mallrats there's a part in the beginning where it shows Jason Lee's like basement room, and there's this poster, like just a poster of Legend, so I just thought the poster looked cool, so I remember
that's awesome.
Like I think I looked it up like on movies.com back in the day. Yeah, the first time I watched it, which was actually not that long ago, like 2016 is when I finally sat and watched the whole thing from beginning to end.
Yeah.
And it was the director's cut, which made sense because this time around I watched just like the theatrical cut.
Yeah.
And I would recommend anyone that's like never seen it, or if they have seen it and they're going to rewatch it, I kind of regretted watching the theatrical. I feel like there's just so much more.
Yeah. So like the biggest thing is I think like that theatrical, and it's like because it's like the American, the UK, theatrical, and director. There's actually four.
Yeah.
But like because it showed in the beginning, it showed Tim Curry as Darkness or whatever, I guess is the devil. But it had like green glowing eyes and a green fingernail, so I saw that, I was like, that is so cheesy looking. So I don't know if that was in your party you watched. It had a different opening. And then I also
that was the thing. I felt like when I watched the theatrical cut, it like the opening was just different from what I remember. I mean, like there's like the scrolling text.
There's missing, it's like it's just so it's weird what pieces are missing and stuff like that. But which is interesting because when we rewatched it, it was the director's cut, and Steve even said like, "Oh, like, where's the part with this?" I was like, so we went and we found the other version. I was like, this is so bizarre how different cuts and stuff, because I like it when like the unicorn gets their horn back in the end, and then there's one cut where you don't see that scene where they help the unicorn. So I was like, that's weird. But
and what I think is what's really fascinating about this film is that Ridley Scott actually drew a lot of inspiration from Disney films, like one of them in particular being Bambi,
That's so funny.
Which makes a lot of sense.
It makes a lot of
in
sense.
the beginning when Jack
With
and what's her name again?
Lily.
Lily, yeah. When Jack and Lily are like with
Mia,
the
Sara,
animals and everything. And then also he drew inspiration from like Beauty and the Beast.
That I definitely can see. That's like a Stockholm syndrome.
Right?
Be
yeah,
my
totally.
bride.
I like the way you put that Stockholm syndrome. Yeah. And then like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs and so forth.
Yeah.
And then there was even like rumors about like they say like the creator of like Zelda.
Yes,
inspiration. After watching it, I kind of got that vibe, but I played Zelda growing up a little bit on the NES, but I know that you're more of a Zelda aficionado.
Well, there's so many similarities because because Jack reminds me so much of Link, and like he's very like, because Link is from the forest, the Kokiri forest, and he's like an elf boy. He's an elf boy. He's got a fucking fairy following around Una who's like Navi. Yeah. He picks up the sword like in the like Darkness's dungeon, and he's like heavy with it. So it's like there's so many similarities, and a lot of people talk about that. And you know, saving the princess, of course, from darkness and stuff. So yeah, it's very interesting. Like I don't think it's ever been confirmed 100%, but there's definitely inspiration there, in my opinion. And
absolutely. I mean, it's very possible.
Yeah.
I think
it was funny
surprise me
when we were watching it because like I love the unicorns parts, but when they showed the unicorns running through the forest, I'm like, why do they sound like freaking whales? And I guess
no,
yeah, it actually was humpback whales that he used. I was like, that's so interesting. I wouldn't think a unicorn would sound like.
Yeah, either would I. It's like I would think they would just kind of use like a horse sound, but like maybe tweak it a little bit.
Exactly, ethereal, because they did like that weird sound effects when she was first in the forest scene. It's almost drawn
yeah, it's very
out.
intense.
That scene is intense. With,
like sonically, this movie is very intense. Like they do a lot of weird things with sounds. I mean, like even the music too, like can kind of accentuate that weird, strange mysticism of it.
I think the best way to explain it, and I read about it, was like this whole like opening. A lot of the scenes are like a fever dream. Like slowed down, elongated.
That's like a good way to describe it. I like that.
It's very bizarre. It's like what? It's so interesting.
Like it almost gives you a little bit of like I would almost say like an outer body experience to a certain degree.
I could see that for sure. Yeah, I always hated that part though in the beginning when she's like, I want to touch the unicorn. I'm like, no, you fucking bitch, don't touch the unicorn.
It's like go touch yourself. To pictures of Cameron Sloan.
And I was like, I know, when I watched this the second time too, I was like, God, I can't believe how horny Lily was for Jack. Like Tom Cruise, and he's just like, I'm a little forest boy, la la la. She's like, oh, show me this, show me that.
Yeah, the reason Jack wasn't into it is because he was, he's secretly gay.
Probably was.
I think he should have been gotten with what is his name, Lord of Darkness? Or,
yeah.
Is that what Tim Curry's character?
I think it's Lord Darkness.
Lord Darkness.
I think so.
First of all, both of them have a vitamin D deficiency, and they both didn't realize that it's okay to be gay, and that's why they're both so angry. That's why Lord of Darkness was trying to take, Princess Lily.
He just wanted Jack to go.
I swear to God, I'm not gay. It's like, dude, take some vitamin D, some magnesium, get ashwagandha from Fred Meyer. You need to chill.
So funny. But what do you think of like some of the characters in the movie? Like
I love Gump. Yeah, Gump was the shit. I think he was my favorite.
So funny.
I just love his passion.
I forgot like how he talks and like how goofy he kind of is. I was like, oh my god, it's so funny. Little elf boy.
Well, apparently too, like in the original draft, like the movie overall was supposed to be like way more gory, way more violent.
That's crazy.
In general. And like there was supposed to be like a scene of like rape, which I'm glad. Part of me kind of wishes it would have been pushed towards more of like the horror aspect.
It could have gone that way.
But it's like, I'm glad they did not have a rape scene. That would have just been like terrible in general. I mean, like no one wants to fucking see that shit when they're seeing a film of this, like I think it kind of just, the fact that it was more of like a family genre film, like caused it to be more like well known that it is to this day.
Right. So was it rated PG or PG-13? It had to be 13.
I think it was PG.
PG. God, that's crazy because of how like dark some of the scenes were. Like, because there was a scene that was taken out in like the UK.
Yeah, it's like where Jack is like climbing one of the hills and like the rocks, like it's like, and rocks in like the like edited version, but it's like it was originally supposed to be like dead corpse.
Oh, wow, creepy. That would be interesting. But no, I could see it easily going dark. Totally. I know, it's so weird. And there's that scene too. I really like that one scene where she's dancing with like the female version of Darkness to like tempt her. and she's dancing. In the hallway or the dark.
I have to say though, even though the Lord of Darkness is just like a Sinette bar and needs to come out of the closet, I gotta say his temple.
Temple's cool.
Oh, were you gonna say he's sexy? No, his temple rips. I mean, he has his temple is like Bliss Out headquarters. Mm-hmm. You know, he's got great lighting, so I gotta hand it to the guy. In terms of interior design for a place to live,
badass.
He's crushing it.
Okay, but the funny thing is, rewatching it again, I'm like, there's fucking glitter everywhere. There's glitter everywhere in the beginning, and especially down to like Oliver has like everything's dark and black, like the food and the drinks. It's just so funny. But what I was gonna say though, something I noticed watching this, especially in the fireplace scenes, if you look, there's like these little like Aztecan looking gods, and I can't remember the name of it. It's the same thing that's on the Rogue Guy Dead Ale, that little guy. That icon is in the movie, so it's an Aztecan.
Oh shit!
So it's like there's some type of demon god thing. You'll have to look for it next time you view it. It's very
that's the thing about this movie. There's like a lot of like elements of religion as well. I mean, like there's supposed to be like literary references to like, you know, the whole deal with like Adam and Eve and like even the works of like Dante's Inferno.
Oh yeah.
And I think in the original cut, you know, it was supposed to be like 2 hours and 35 minutes. It was gonna go more in depth with like the fact that like Jack, like his character was supposed to be like, you know, representing like lust. And then Lily, it was supposed to be like love, and then there was another character that was supposed to be greed, and then they were gonna make Gump more.
Oh, interesting.
He was supposed to be more of like an angry character.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So I mean, like, despite minus like the whole rape scene, I almost kind of wish they would have gone with a darker aspect of the film, like almost kind of make it more in the styles of like Caligula, which came out in the 70s, and that was controversial, but it's like, you know, it like didn't hide any of the dark matter that was going on.
I think it is interesting because I think. Yeah, it's got some interesting thematic things, but it's like more of a young adult.
Right.
But otherwise it could have just been mostly adult. So I don't know if he was like trying to play it off a certain way, but it is interesting. I mean, the whole theme of it is, you know, light and darkness, good and bad. So I like that whole like, I don't know, dichotomy of it. But
it kind of goes back to his like inspirations that he drew from Disney, because it's like Disney often had a lot of like hidden like innuendos in the film and stuff. So
it's just
I think that's even like, I guess that's more impressive that he went with the edit that he did, just because, you know, that way everyone could like catch it, like check it out and like, you know, take it their own way.
Exactly. I think like the biggest thing, like you said, is the pacing of it. Because the first half is like, okay, we're getting into this movie. It's very like fantasy. The forest and the visuals are just amazing. You're figuring out who these characters are. But yeah, once it gets into like the underworld, it does kind of slow down. It goes in different directions a little bit. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, that was like that's one of my biggest complaints about the movie. I just feel like the pacing is just kind of a little. I think you just have to kind of be in the right like state of mind. Like hungover when I rewatched it.
Or high. No, I'm just teasing.
Well, actually, the first time I did watch it, actually, like shout out to you, Devin, if you're watching this. I remember eating like a bunch of edibles with you and watching this in my room like 5-6 years ago, and that was a lot of fun. So
I could see. Well, wasn't there a whole like story about in the stoner thing? Like,
yes. So they did a like screen test. And the original cut of the movie ran like, you know, 2 hours 35, 2 hours 45 minutes, and I guess apparently stoners were telling Ridley Scott, you know, like, we think it's a little too much.
Wow.
Like, cut it, like, which, you know,
I'll be honest,
because I mean, like, even the theatrical cut, like, at 1 hour and 29 minutes, it still felt kind of long. I mean, I guess it didn't like go by too slow, but it's just I don't know. Pacing is everything in a good film.
It is. And I feel like it's a good like background movie, but like even that's how I feel a little bit with Never Ending Story. Like it's you gotta be in this like kind of mindset. Like there's some scenes and stuff you'll just kind of skip through. I don't know. It just doesn't hit the mark all the time. But
absolutely. Yeah.
But overall, like as a complete picture and movie, I thought it was fine. But
I thought it was interesting too. I didn't realize that there was two different composers. So Jerry Goldsmith did the music originally. Okay. And then, you know, in the more, like, I guess, like, common version that people buy, it's Tangerine Dream, which was, like, one of the pioneers of electronic music. I thought what was your thoughts on the music in the film?
That's all, you know, it's funny, because, like, they're like, I hear that a lot, the Tangerine Dream song, but that song was so forgettable to me. I like the songs in the beginning that me and Sara sang, because it was all, like, princessy, and that stuck more with me, like, Oak and Tree and Me in the Meadow, because I don't know, I vibe more with that, but I didn't really walk away with remembering much, to be honest.
Yeah, when the music was going on, like, I could respect the element that it's like the pioneer of electronic music, you know, because I believe Tangerine Dream was like kind of like an electronic duo from the 70s. And I mean, I do love some of that old electronic music. I mean, like Kraftwerk's amazing, and you know, you got Thomas Dolby and Gary Newman and such. So it kind of reminded me a little bit of that. But it's like,
I don't know, it wasn't. Yeah.
I wouldn't. Let's just put it this way: I would not be going on Spotify and looking up Tangerine Dream.
I agree with you.
Putting it on any playlist.
I agree with you on that, 100%. Yeah, it's just, it wasn't. It was okay.
And I mean, music can make all the difference in a movie, even if it's a fucking terrible movie.
It's so true.
And I mean, like Neverending Story, for example, like kind of goes back to that. It's like the theme.
Yeah, exactly.
With Lamal from, you know, whatchamacallit, what's that band? Kajagoogoo, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like that movie I almost feel like is like almost more well-known because of the song almost than the story itself. But
so funny. What was one of your favorite scenes? If you had to pick one, do you have any?
I really liked the scene in the beginning, like when I mentioned about like Ridley Scott's inspiration with Disney movies, like kind of like when him and Lily are like hanging out and like there's all the animals, and, like the deer and everything, like the rabbits.
Really cool. It's such, I'm like, that's such a life. Him like teaching her about like, different animals and sounds and just respecting, I don't know, like that'd be such a cool place to live. But yeah, what about Tom Cruise? Like, he was kind of fugly in this movie. He had like a little unibrow on his teeth. It's like, I don't know.
I'm a little bit neutral with Tom Cruise. I love Tom Cruise in Eyes Wide Shut.
Well,
I mean, Eyes Wide Shut is one of my all-time favorite movies. He's not one of my
favorite actors either, yeah.
I think Tom Cruise is definitely overrated. And he kind of looks like a lesbian that took a shit in this movie. Like
a toothpick.
Or, you know, no offense if you're a lesbian. I mean, I don't give a fuck. But I'm just saying he looks like a lesbian that farted in this movie. He kind of looks like, I mean, I'll put an image of it when I edit this and put this out into the world of YouTube, but he kind of looks like Nick Valenzi of The Strokes.
Oh yeah, I can look him up. That's so funny.
Except Nick Valenzi is a phenomenal guitar player, so therefore he is better.
And then what do you think about Mia Sara? Because
she's actually really good. I think besides
actress.
Tim Curry and her stole the show.
Absolutely.
I almost feel like the movie should have focused more on them.
That scene where he's like trying to tempt her and like, be my bride, shit. She's like, it's so well acted. And like, this was her debut film, I think it was, her first movie. Especially,
was it?
I'm pretty sure it was.
I mean, I know it was definitely before
one of her
Ferris
first
Bueller's Day
Off. So, yeah, but I thought she did an amazing job, like, especially her working with Tim Curry. I don't know, I thought that was
Tim Curry, Ridley Scott chose Tim Curry specifically because of the fact of, like, seeing him on Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Right. No, it's so true. And, like, I mean, all that makeup and the special effects were just, that's why I like this movie a lot, because of this, like, there's no CGI. It's all practical. They built the sets, like the lighting, all themselves.
Yeah, like Tom Cruise's character and like Mia Sara's character, like they were like I think one of the only ones that like, didn't have to deal with any makeup. And I know one of the characters, and I'll put it up. I can't remember the name of the character, but they modeled this character after Keith Richards from the Rolling Stones, which I thought.
What?
So I kept making it like I kept keeping an eye out for that when I was rewatching it last week, and so I think I knew it was, but I was like, oh my god, I'm like, that makes so it's like totally Keith Richards, Rolling Stones, like in the 80s.
Yeah. That's all. I mean, I guess I do forget about how many creatures there are. You got the little goblins, you got the little elf people, like I don't know, like kind of hobbity looking people, but. Then they got that one scene where he's in the swamp with Meg, who comes out like the creature, and he's like, "Oh, you're so beautiful, Meg," and he uses the shield. She looks at the shield, and he kills her. That scene happens so. I don't know if that was in one of the theatrical. I think it was on the director's cut. That scene. It wasn't in all of the movies, but that part was really crazy. Steve likes that scene a lot. I was like, "That's weird."
Is that one of the scenes where they're kind of almost like in a swamp, and it reminds me of the Swamps of Sadness from Neverending Story?
Yes, it does. It totally does. And this movie's kind of into riddles, which I like.
That is pretty cool. I did like that aspect of it. It makes it different and more unique and like kind of its own thing. Like especially for Ridley Scott. Like I feel like this is like I feel like Legend and Thelma and Louise are his two films that are kind of just like, wait, what? Like that's Ridley Scott?
Because when I think of Ridley Scott, I do think of like kind of like that, like you said,
more epic films.
Exactly, more epic, and so to have this
historical.
Movie, it is a little bit of an outlier, but it does also fit, especially in the end when he like kills, the Lord of Darkness or whatever, and he goes like flying into space. I'm like, that's such an alien thing. But like the dialogue and the writing in this was really good. There's some really good lines in this. Like
That's
he's
true.
like, we are
Yeah.
brothers, and like you can't have darkness without light. Like there's so many things. I'm like, these are good. These are good. Like I don't know, and that's what reminds me.
Yeah, definitely a lot of good like philosophical
exactly.
dialogue.
And there was one thing that crossed my mind when I was watching this movie. I was like, this movie almost falls into the same realm of Hook, because Tink is almost like Una.
Right,
and you got Jack,
yeah.
like, I don't know, there's like some things that
I
are
can
like,
see that, yeah, Una did remind me a lot of Tinkerbell.
yeah, like, she's
like
like
especially
Tinkerbell,
like more of like the old school Tinkerbell.
And then it was interesting that scene where she kind of like, she liked Jack and she wanted
Right.
to, like, she looked like Mia Sarah's character, Lily. Kind of just like, he's like, no, you're not her. And that was interesting. There's a lot to like flesh out, I guess, with that character. I thought she was pretty fun.
Yeah, no, she was really
She's
good.
so cute. Yeah.
Like I thought like the
Or
like more
fairy.
obscure characters
Yeah.
are like just like the like people in the costumes
Yes.
that were like I thought they were, if anything, the better actors.
agree.
Like I think Tom Cruise was the fucking worst
well, he
actor
didn't
in
have
this
like
movie.
a lot of dialogue.
And the movie would have been better if he died at the end.
She would have became the Princess of Darkness or something.
Yeah. See, I think deep down she probably wanted to fuck Lord Darkness because she was like, well, she's like, this guy is
so
taller.
hot. Like, literally, it's so tempting.
I know, I always
Like
forget about
a
your Tim
sexual,
Curry.
it's like a sexual awakening. They're like, ooh, that's naughty. Like, I don't know. It's so funny. There's a lot of movies that are like that.
Yeah, just one more thing I want to add, because you were asking about like favorite scenes, like just like any scene with the unicorns in general, and like I think
I love it.
this movie, like they should make like a series of posters, I think, and like
that'd be
not even just with this movie, but I think if they made a series of posters with like Ridley Scott films in general, because like Ridley Scott just every single one of his movies, like even if the movie sucks or is boring,
Yeah.
it's like there's no denying that the cinematography is just absolutely stunning.
I agree. No, that would be really cool to have all that kind of stuff on display.
Yeah, and like when I was growing up, you know, when I was a young teen, I was obsessed with like fantasy and mystical art. I remember like having posters of, you know, like
Yeah.
blacklight posters of like dragons and like
Yeah.
unicorns and stuff
Exactly.
like that, like mushroom, just all sorts of any fantasy element. Like we always say, you know, hit the like and subscribe button. I'll have a few solo movie reviews coming out in May. I will be reviewing Joe the King, which came out in 1999. And then I'll also be reviewing the very underrated and amazing I Love You to Death, which is based off a true story that came out in 1990. So stay tuned for those.
Stay tuned.
And until next time.
Cheers.
Ah!